All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Liz Stark, and I'm this year's election commissioner. I want to thank you all for coming out to the 2015 Vote SLU Executive Board debate tonight, despite the horrible weather that we had today. This debate is a very important aspect of the Student Government Association election. It is the students' chance to listen to different candidates' viewpoints and platforms and find out what they believe, or find out who they believe will best be able to represent them on the SGA Executive Board in the upcoming year. This is also the students' time to ask the candidates any questions they may have regarding issues on campus. So just a little explanation about the format of this debate. A predetermined coin flip determined what ticket would answer first. For the sake of fairness, we are going to alternate who will answer first for each position. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 1-minute introduction of themselves and their platforms. Each vice presidential candidate will then be asked 2 questions and will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. The presidential candidate will then be asked 3 questions with 2 minutes to respond to each question. Please stand when answering the question and sit when you're not answering. Mr. Luke Yamanitz, if you want to raise your hand right there, will be the timer. He will show candidates a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and stop warnings. So because we have 4 candidates that are abroad this semester, the Election Commission will be presenting the questions so we have the chance to also incorporate the answers from the candidates that cannot be here tonight. The Election Commission is comprised of seniors Landon Brownfield, Peter Ilya, Nathan Fosterman, Brian Kabarek, Andrew McLaughlin, Samantha Radcliffe, Lauren Sealer, and Luke Yamanitz. Thank you again for all making it to the debate tonight. We will now begin the debate with the Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice, and we'll end the debate with questions from the audience.
Okay, so our first candidate for Vice President for Diversity and Social Justice is Colin Chinnaswamy from the Together ticket. So you have 1 minute to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Colin Chinnaswamy, and I'm currently running for the position of Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice. I'm currently a sophomore biology major, minoring in healthcare ethics, and I hope to someday become a doctor to serve my community. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. My mother and father are from India, but I was one of the only Indian Americans in my community, so I understand how it feels to be different from those around you, and the importance of community inclusion and acceptance in promoting the quality of your everyday life. My passion for diversity and inclusion means that I will work to make these words resonate with everyone on campus, so that we can embrace the differences of one another. My role as a senator on the Diversity Leadership Cabinet has shown me how amazing the different cultures, beliefs, and personalities on campus truly are. As Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice, I hope to highlight the unique qualities of each individual here at SLU, while still demonstrating that we are all united as men and women for others.
Okay, and next we will have Bley from the Engaged ticket, who is abroad.
Hi everybody, my name is Bley. I am running for the Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice position at SLU this semester. I'm currently a sophomore studying both history and English, although this semester I am actually studying at the National University of Ireland, Galway, in Galway, Ireland. For the past 2 years, I've been a delegate on the Diversity Leadership Cabinet. I'm a member of Kappa Delta, I'm very involved in the pre-law program here at SLU, and I have done some periodic contribution to the university newspaper. As the Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice, I would work to amplify and protect all voices seeking representation at SLU. I'd definitely love to see the talk to our courts pursued in an open and timely manner and have some more student input in that as well. And in general, kind of engage the student body and inspire them to be agents of change on this campus. Some time lapse, a little fun fact about me. Today is actually my 20th birthday, so can't wait to spend it with you guys here at this debate.
All right, our first question will be for Colin Chinnaswamy from the Together ticket. What are some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives you'd like to see continued? Where do you see what are some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives you'd like to see continued? Where do you see a need within the university for diversity and inclusion initiatives And what are some ways you would change that?
Alright. Well, I guess personally, my first experience with the Diversity Leadership Cabinet came from a dialogue that I went to about the Delmar Divide. And so I think that's one thing that I really want to promote and continue to promote as we go through SLU, if I were to be elected Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice, because I think the dialogues are what start the conversation about these issues in a safe spot where everyone can express their opinions. I'd also like to see events such as Atlas Week and Oath Week continue, because I think it's a great way to immerse yourself in other cultures and get to know people and kind of outline what inclusion really means on campus. I'd also like to see more collaboration between our CSO groups. I think we do a great job of that, but I think we should also encourage CSOs to go and attend other CSO events, cultural and religious events, so that everyone can kind of get a feel for something that's outside of what they normally see. I guess one other thing that I would really like to see on campus is, one big thing that we have is this idea of diversity and inclusion on campus, but I feel like you don't really understand that until you've been at SLU for a while. So other than having our students say the oath of inclusion the first week when they come in, I'd like to kind of encourage more group discussions and dialogues during SLU 101, so that when freshmen are introduced here, they get an idea of what we really stand for, and they come in with their own perspective of diversity, but know that they need to keep an open mind to new things. I'd also like to restructure the Diversity Leadership Cabinet in a way that we're really more engaged with the student body. I want to kind of have more representation with the CSO groups, and I want people to be engaged. I also want to make sure Diversity Leadership Cabinet addresses certain issues in our campus community, such as bias incidents, and I want more student input in that. So I think it's really important that we are transparent to the student body.
Okay, thank you. Emily Bley will answer the same question with the video she sent in.
Hi everybody, my name is Emily Bley. I am running for the Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice position at SLU this semester. I'm currently a sophomore studying both history and English, although this semester I am actually studying at the National University of Ireland, Galway, in Galway, Ireland. For the past 2 years, I've been a delegate on Diversity Leadership Cabinet. I'm a member of Kappa Delta. I'm very involved in the pre-law program here at SLU, and I have done some periodic contribution to the university newspaper. As the Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice, I would work to amplify and protect all voices seeking representation at SLU. I'd definitely love to see the Clock Tower Accords pursued in an open and timely manner and have some more student input in that as well. And in general, kind of engage the student body and inspire them to be agents of change on this campus. I have some time left. So a little fun fact about me. Today is actually my 20th birthday, so can't wait to spend it with you guys here at this debate.
All right, and then our next question is, what are the plans for student outreach to ensure that as many students as possible are engaged with Diversity Leadership Cabinet's various programs to promote awareness of inclusion initiatives? And Emily will answer this question first.
This is a question that I'm actually really excited about, because it's really what our ticket is all about that I'm running on. It's about engaging the student body and kind of being agents of change in their own campus community. And especially, I think right now that there's 3 ways that DLC can be doing more outreach to the students. I think it's kind of difficult right now to combat because it's kind of a two-front war. I mean, students aren't aware of the issues, but they also don't see how they're relevant in their lives. I think the first thing that we can be doing is doing more kind of out-of-the-box outreach. DLC is really great with working with minority CSOs, but I think that we can be doing more and kind of reaching out to Greek life. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. There's 30% of our campus that we're not really working with at the moment, as well as student athletes. I mean, we can bring in the men's Billiken basketball team and bring them in for a discussion about race and sports. I mean, really the possibilities are endless. I think the second would be first-year experience. I really think that we need to be having a more organic conversation about diversity and inclusion. A lot of it is kind of forced and staged. And I think that there could be more, we could be doing more exercises and more, real conversations. I think, it's important because generationally the freshmen come in, and if the upperclassmen don't care about diversity and inclusion initiatives, I think, why should they? So, I mean, that really kind of starts, I think, with bringing in the new classes of SLU students. And then finally, I have kind of this, idea for a unity day. Every year, DLC hosts an Oath Week to celebrate the Oath of Inclusion.
And I really think that at the end of that week, we can kind of bring all the CSOs, all the student organizations, clubs, and societies together and really, rally for one cause, raise money for a charity that has to do with diversity and inclusion, raise awareness for an issue, and really bring the whole campus together in support of diversity and inclusion initiatives.
All right, and again, that question is, what are your plans for student outreach to ensure that as many students as possible are engaged with Diversity Leadership Cabinet's various programs to promote awareness of inclusion initiatives?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest things, which I touched on a little bit before for the last question, was the transparency of Diversity Leadership Cabinet. I think right now we kind of come off as our own small little group and that people can't really come in and give, the opinion that matters. If we're supposed to be representing diversity on campus, we cannot be such a small group. So the first thing I would want to do is expand Diversity Leadership Cabinet. I want to see more people come in. I want individuals and CSO groups to really truly be engaged in DLC. And so one thing that I will definitely do is I'm going to hold CSOs accountable for achieving certain things, like attending different CSO groups, like trying to collaborate with other CSOs for cultural events, because I think that's where we start, is getting outside of your comfort zone and introducing yourself to a new culture. So another thing I also want to do is I really want to give CSOs the tools to host their own dialogues, because I think Diversity Leadership Cabinet has held all these dialogues under our umbrella name, but if we really want to expand to other student organizations, then we need to give them the tools to which they can hold those same conversations in safe environments. So I really want to do that, and so I want to see that impact reach all levels of our school. I guess another thing I want to do is I want us to come off as a group that wants to reach out to the community. I don't want people to just have to come to us. So I think Diversity Leadership Cabinet really has a responsibility to make our own events and expand on the ones we already have. Because I want people to know that we don't just want them to come to us. We are here as a student body and we want to work for you.
All right, thank you very much. So Samantha Radcliffe will be next reading the questions for the VP of International Affairs.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have two candidates for VP of International Affairs. The first is from the Engage ticket, Melena Abijaoude, and the second is Victor Hong from the Together ticket, who will be represented by Molly Farmer, as he's abroad right now. So Melena, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Melena Abijaoude. I am running with Engage for VP of International Affairs, and I am Lebanese. I am studying computer engineering here at SLU. In the past, I have served on SGA, and currently I am on the e-board for the International Student Federation and the Caribbean and Latin American Student Association. I have two main points I'd really like to focus on. The first one being a greater collaboration between ISF and non-cultural groups. Being part of the e-board on ISF, I've seen you do a great job collaborating with other cultural CSOs, but we don't reach out to domestic students and create greater bonding between the two communities. The other platform I'd like to focus on is collaborating with the Career Center and OIS for greater opportunities for international students, whether it's through more internship opportunities, for service opportunities, and as well as job opportunities for international students while immigrants.
Thank you.
So Victor says, hello. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Victor and I'm from Vietnam. I plan on becoming a petroleum engineer in the future. I chose this career because it's my plan to travel all the time, and since petroleum engineers are everywhere on the planet and extracting oil and gas, it's just perfect for me. I have the privilege to study in 3 different continents of the world. I've spent 16 years in Asia, 4 years in America, and now I'm currently a semester in Europe. This has truly given me a global perspective about the things I see every day. I got invited to run for the VP of International Services, and I believe that it will be my honor to bring the global perspective that I received back home and abroad to the voice of our international population. I wish all the candidates the best of luck to engage in their campaigns, and that there should be no hard feelings regardless of the turnout, because we engage together for the best benefit of the student body.
Thank you. Okay, so the first question will be for Melena. What do you think are the key components of building a more welcoming and positive international community on campus?
I think there are two main components. The first one is there needs to be more events, more opportunities for international students to interact with domestic students. It's obviously all events on campus are open for everyone, however, I feel if there is something specific to kind of bring the two together, there'll be a stronger community between the two. And the second one is creating, not necessarily more opportunities, but maybe reaching out to international students a little bit more, letting them know about all the current things school has to offer for international students. I think a lot of times international students come and don't realize how many things are actually offered for them and what they can do in campus to be more involved. I think maybe during welcome week or sometime during the school year, if there's a chance to really inform international students about what's already here, that would be a great way.
So Victor says, I am really engaged in the international population, as I have previously served the programming chair for International Student Federation and the International Ambassador, Mentor, and Center. With the benefit of studying in 3 continents, I think one very crucial component in welcoming the international students is to create an environment where they feel like they are at home, even though they are thousands of miles away from their homes. It's one of my secret ingredients. Whenever I travel to a new destination, I always think to myself, welcome home. And this immediately makes me feel so comfy. In order to create this environment, the Office of International Services has done a great job in hosting tastes of different countries, but I feel like we can do more. Another key component is that I can think of is maybe creating weekend trips or holiday trips so that international students can explore the United States whenever they have free time. Just like in my school in London, like they did for new students. I feel like this is a really effective way that the students will have a chance to hang out and get to explore the United States in a healthy way with one another. Lastly, the international students come to our school to learn about America, its culture, and its people. In order to do that, we have to boost the domestic students' involvement with the international events and create more interaction between both of our populations.
Thank you. Okay, so then Molly will answer again first this time on behalf of Victor. So the second question is, how would you make sure that senators and committee representatives are held accountable for their responsibilities? Oh, I'm sorry, I read the wrong question. If chosen to be the VP of International Affairs, what creative measures would you suggest to attract a wider variety of international students?
So again, I really think we need to create more exciting events and make the international students feel like they're at home in the United States. I would suggest advertising more the diversity on campus and creating international posters so that the domestic students will have a better understanding of where international students are from and what aspects of culture they bring to campus. I think that the staff here are very welcoming, but if we can attract more domestic students to be aware and welcoming to the international community, that would be great. I think the host family program from OIS is great, and I can work with the staff to create more exciting events instead of doing the same events over and over again. I think the Ambassador Mentor programming, where international students can have a one-on-one interaction with the current SLU students, is great. However, this program sometimes lacks in participation, as some mentors aren't very involved. I can also suggest that the iOS office create a weekly social event where students come to hang out, eat food, watch a movie from their home country, and invite other domestic students to also participate. Again, I don't think this is something that SLU has done before, but I really like the idea of school-organized weekend trips to other states or other areas in the United States. The students have to pay for these trips, but we will have more options to have fun rather than just going to bars and drinking. There are countless measures that I can suggest that aren't something I can talk about in 2 minutes or even within 24 hours. In order to make these measures come true, I will need to support a lot of departments to figure out the costs and the benefits. But if I'm selected to be the VP of International Affairs, I don't want to just talk. or I don't just want to be a person who talks, I want to be a person who acts, because I want to bring real changes to the international community.
Thank you. And that question again was, if chosen to be the VP of International Affairs, what creative measures would you suggest to attract a wider variety of international students?
The first thing I think is that will draw a lot of international students to SLU is that offering more opportunities for international students to have internships and work in the St. Louis area. I think if we collaborate with Cory, there's a lot of companies in the St. Louis area who do sponsor international students, and having that opportunity for students not only to come and gain study abroad opportunity, but also to gain work experience in the U.S. I think that would be a great thing we can do for international student community. Because when they go back to their home country, I guess, it's a great thing to be able to have that experience and not just come study 4 years and unlock your years back home, not gain any or as much work opportunity. Also, as Victor was saying, I think it's very crucial that we have more opportunities for travel. St. Louis is in the heart of America. It's easy to go to places like Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans. There's so many cities around St. Louis that's more doable than you would think. You can take the megabus, you can take all kinds of things to get around. Also, one thing to make SLU more international student friendly, I guess, is having a stronger relationship for international students and domestic students, whether it's through collaboration events, or whether it's encouraging the shared culture, but dialogue about culture, bringing together students to really dig deeper into just more than just food, but history and religion and different aspects of each culture.
Thank you. So we'll next be hearing from the candidates for VP of Internal Affairs.
Okay, so we'll start with the bio from Colin Sobol together.
Hi everybody, my name is Colin and thanks for having me today. I'm running for VP of Internal Affairs. And I know what you might be thinking, I kind of come in as the guy who has, I guess, less experience, you might say, and why would I be running for this kind of position if I haven't had as much experience as the person before me, the person before that, or even my fellow candidate here. And a few weeks ago I kind of agreed with you. I had no idea. And then I met these great people who put in a lot of faith in me, and I kind of just took it and ran with it. And hopefully I surprised them, because we came up with a great thing that said together. And throughout all of our campaigning, we've met so many different student organizations, and they're really reaching out to us. They're glad that we're there. They're glad that we're there to listen to them and kind of move their mission forward. So that's really kind of what a lot of my points stand forward on, is that moving us integrated as a full community together and making sure that everyone's heard in a way that we can kind of take the vulnerability of St. Louis and everything that's been happening and improve from that, because there's a lot of room for improvement, and there's a lot of people that want to hear from us, other than us hear from them. Thanks.
Luella from Engage.
Hi everyone, my name is Loseille and I am a sophomore currently studying anthropology and French. I currently serve as the SGA Commuter Senator, and I work with the Commuter Student Association. And some of my platform points as VP of Internal Affairs is to increase the interactions between SGA members and their constituents, really encouraging the conversation so students know who to go to whenever they would like to voice their concerns. And another one of my main points would be to increase the familiarity of students in SGA through hosting SGA-sponsored events that allow students to come and interact with each other as well as with their SGA members. Thank you.
Okay, so the first question for Colin. What is the importance of committees, and how will you ensure that the SGA committees are productive?
Thanks. It's actually a really great question, because honestly, I'm coming with this great perspective that I haven't been in this huge structure, and there's something that I can bring as moving in forward with these people, going together and kind of rebuilding that in a way that we can grow and change. There's a lot of things that are unanswered, I think, out in the SLU community. So having committees that answer to those people directly, meeting with them, talking with them, understanding their own problems, because I mean, we as a governing body, we can't just say, create a committee that we think we understand them, but shoot, I thought I understood some people, and then when we went to their student organizations, they love dancing, they love food, they love having us there talking with them. Man, I'm still like scratching from yesterday at that BSA event. So there's a lot of things out there that we are totally unaware of that they want to hear our perspective from. So I think having committees, being able to reach out to them, holding them accountable for the fact that there are some progress that needs to happen in a lot of CSOs, but not just CSOs, an entire student body. So having a way to progress that and keeping those goals in check, establishing groups of people to be able to answer to those specific needs in our community. And I think that's what all these people here are standing here for. They're not coming up here to lead an organization or to lead a specific group of a body of people, but to have them answer to someone specifically. There's a need, there's a person. And there's always going to be someone there to answer that question. And I think that they are all well-bodied people that can handle those committees and really hold them accountable. So I put my faith in them, they put their faith in me, and I think that moving together, we'll be able to create those committees, create the need, and have that open dialogue, a lot of transparency, being able to hold each other accountable moving forward. And also, I gotta say that when we talked to all those committees, they had so many goals and so many needs that they wanted, and there's a lot of collaboration to be had. So being in charge of a committee, being in charge of one group or an area of people with some kind of need on campus, they know who to communicate with, and they can actually reach more people that way. Thanks.
Okay, I'll just repeat the question. What is the importance of committees, and how will you ensure that the SGA committees are productive?
So the sole purpose of SGA is to represent the voice and concerns of our students. However, we can't really function if we really don't hear those voices and concerns in the first place. So the purpose of the committees is kind of like the backbone of SGA in a sense. We have our students who voice their concerns to their senators, and their senators bring those concerns to the committee where we specifically sit down and like, hey, how can we address this issue together? These are the concerns and voices of our students. So the purpose of the committees and SGA is to really work together on those things, find the resources we can utilize to address those problems. In SGA, I would like, as candidate for VP of Internal Affairs, rather than just focusing solely on just committees, I would like to increase the collaboration between both senator members and committees, because as SGA, we are a group of unity. We're not just, oh, just the senators or, oh, just the committees. We are one group working towards a focused goal. So not only holding committees accountable for addressing the concerns of the students, but also holding SGA senators together as a group to really pursue those issues and really get things done, because that is our role as SGA members to do in the first place. Thank you.
Okay, the second question for Luella again. How would you make sure that senators and committee representatives are held accountable for their responsibilities?
So, like I mentioned before, the purpose of SGA is to be the representation of the voices and concerns of our students. We were elected to our position for a reason. Students would like to see us do something. So to hold committee members and senators both accountable for their action, I would highly suggest and encourage an attendance policy of making sure that each senator and committee representative do attend these meetings where we are supposed to discuss our issues. Because if you are a student who is elected to be the leader of our university and yet you're not taking the time to come out to address these problems, that's an issue that we need to fix. So to really enforce the fact that you are here with a responsibility, I think that we should abide by an attendance policy, and after that, there's still some issues in regards to senators and committee reps being held accountable of their issues. I think that's really the time where the VP of Internal Affairs, or even the whole VP of Internal Affairs committee, should really sit down and talk to this representative, like, hey, what's the problem? Why are things not working? How can we help you to make sure that you can uphold to your responsibility as an SGA representative?
I'll repeat the question. What is the importance of, how would you make sure that senators and committee representatives are held accountable for their responsibilities?
Great. I think everything that she said is completely true, and it's a wonderful thing. I know I've only been to a few SGA meetings, but all of these senators have a really important role in how SGA functions. I think that there's a great need out there that when we're switching from one executive board to another executive board, there's room for change. So instead of just building on more and more rules and building an infrastructure that's already there, let's focus on something together. And I know that we're going to hear a little bit more of that from all of our different candidates here. But definitely these senators need to be held accountable for the fact that they have a committee that they're upholding, or there's a student body that has a need, and they need to be engaging with it. They need to be there together talking with them. If you're in charge of one group of students, you need to be out there communicating with them, dialogue. Have some of their office hours possibly be out there in those CSOs, talking with them and seeing what they need so that we're bringing their voice here. Invite them here to come talk to us. You know, be out there and always be visible. I think everyone has made such a huge impact on our community so far, but there's so much room for change. Our entire society is completely vulnerable. Everything that had been going on in our past year has left us in the state of how can we take that interest, that open dialogue, all of that focus, and move it towards something greater. And I think that's holding all of our own leadership body completely accountable for the fact that there are people out there that want to talk to you. And you better be there. You better be there to listen to them, help them move forward, because they have a message that they want to get across, and we have to be the voice to do that. And I think that you're going to hear later on from all of us that you're not just voting for who you think is going to be the overarching voice of every single member of SGA, or even the student body, for example. The student body is voting for who they want to represent them, not just who we think we should represent them as. So I'm not up here voting for myself. Everyone should vote for me because I have a better answer than her. But I think that I want to help represent that student body's voice stronger. Thanks.
Okay, that's it. Next up, we have Vice President of Academic Affairs.
All right, we have the candidates for the VP of Academic Affairs in front of us, and first we're going to go with the engaged representative, Lynch. You can introduce yourself.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Kevin Lynch. I am a sophomore here at St. Louis University, double majoring in communication and English. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I am currently a senator for the College of Arts and Sciences, and I sit on the Academic Affairs Committee. I also sit on the University Committee, the Undergraduate Educational Experience Steering Committee. And one of the things I'd really like to do in this position, if I am elected, is to establish a series of advisory boards for every college. Are we good? Cool. I'd like to establish a series of advisory boards for all the deans of all of the colleges, just to ensure that student voices are represented in all administrative decisions. A lot of the deans right now are simply making decisions based off of what professors and other advisors are telling them, and the student voice is really absent. So I think that these advisory boards would go a long way in helping deans best represent student interests. So thanks, guys.
Okay, now we're going to have Ellyn and Cory from the Together ticket introduce herself.
Hi guys, my name is Ellyn Cory and I am running for Vice President of Academic Affairs. I'm currently a junior in the College of Dozie College of Health Sciences, and I am a nutrition and dietetics major. My main objectives running for this position are to really bring the student body and the student voice to SGA, and I want to do that by having us outreach to them rather than have them come to us, because I know a lot of times we expect students to come to us with their complaints, and one thing I'd really like to do is go to their CSOs and sit in and see what they're doing and see what the CSO is about. And I just think that's really important because it's a great way to see not only what's going on with our students now, but seeing how we can address their needs best. And I think it also shows that we're really supporting them. So we're not just this like elite overarching body, we're actually going out into our community and doing what we can to help them. Secondly, I would really like to try to join the medical campus and the main campus together more. A lot of people on the main campus, I feel like don't even, oh, I'm sorry.
We'll hear more on that point during the questions. So first we're going to have Kevin answer this first question, and until we get the mic working, you can come back up here. So the first question is, what are some specific and concrete changes that you would make to improve the academic advising experience for students?
All right, so the first thing that I would do in terms of academic advising is definitely try to increase turnover for our advisors. Right now, a lot of our advisors are only here for a year or two, and then they go on to a better job or a different job, I guess. And that's just really the nature of the position. So that's going to be a big barrier to get over. And I'm really looking forward to meeting our new provost and working with them closely on how to get over that hurdle. To be honest, I don't know a lot about being an academic advisor. I don't know what the job entails. So this provost should definitely focus, I feel, on getting advisors to stay longer so that relationships can be built between advisors and their students. And that's really the first thing that I would do. The second thing I would do is increase training for these advisors. I know that a lot of times I have had awkward conversations with my advisors just because frankly, they don't seem to know what they're doing. So I would ensure that every advisor know, one, what students are required to do in the colleges in terms of like core curriculum and whatnot. And also, I would really encourage advisors to go through some sort of diversity training just so we don't have any insensitive language being used by advisors on accident or intentionally. So those are some things that I would really do to fix the advising program here at SLU.
Okay, and we'll have Ellyn answer the same question. Here it is again. What are some specific and concrete changes that you would make to improve the academic advising experience for students? Is this working? Awesome.
Okay, so one thing that I think is really important about our academic advisors is that they know the career path that students are trying to take. I think that an issue right now is that we've finally kind of started to go into these major-specific or freshman-specific advisor overarching branches, but the problem is that they don't know how to get students to the next step. So I think that it's really important that they're educated on what type of grad school options there are for the majors that they're advising on. I also agree that I think turnover is a really big problem. A lot of times advising is kind of a stepping stone to a bigger job, and so this is like a nationwide problem. We have a lot of issues with advisors moving on to bigger and better things. So I think that if we could create some type of structure or incentives for our advisors so that they could feel like they're growing in their own jobs. Because it is important that, and the provost, one of our provost candidates has talked about this as well, and I would love to work closer with him or her, but I just think it's really important that they have a clear career path so they know, okay, there's more for me here at SLU, there's more for me in this position. I have incentive to advise these students to the best of my ability. I know everything about what they're doing, I know everything about their major, and I'm forming personal relationships with them. Thank you.
Okay, you can stay up here. We're going to ask our second question to you first. The second question is going to be, SLU's new provost may call for a review of academic programs. What do you believe are characteristics of strong academic programs? On what basis should programs be evaluated?
Okay, so I think this is a difficult question because, of course, SLU is a large university and we each have our own areas of interest. But to me, what SLU really stands for is the Jesuit mission and engaging all of our students in what they love best and engaging the community by engaging the students in what they love best. And so to me, programs maybe wouldn't be specifically like this class, this class, this class, but programs that really increase diversity and inclusion. So maybe having a course that's specific to each major but incorporates those main Jesuit ideals in some manner. I think that's really important. I think it's also important to especially get freshmen out. The reason we have a core curriculum is so that freshmen get to test different things and they kind of stretch their brain in ways that their major doesn't necessarily incorporate. So I think it's extremely important to have some basics, some basic courses in there so that people can gain more perspective and teach the world better, like go out into the world and serve the world better after they graduate. Thanks.
Okay, Kevin, same question. SLU's new provost may call for a review of academic programs. What do you believe are characteristics of strong academic programs? On what basis should programs be evaluated?
All right, so I'm really glad that Ellyn brought up the Jesuit mission because I think that should be central to all academic programs here at SLU. And the Jesuits really advocate for a well-rounded education and an education of the entire person. And I think that we need to make sure that SLU is providing academic programs that do provide for the education of the whole person. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge that we go to college so that we can get a job after we graduate. So we have to make sure that these academic programs also are providing for our needs, the needs that we will have after we graduate in our professional areas. So I think that really what this provost should focus on, and what I would focus on as VP of Academic Affairs, is ensuring that academic programs have this balance between the education of the whole person and also providing for career needs of the students. Also, going back to the Jesuit mission, I think that all academic programs really need to contemplate what they are offering their students in terms of how they can use their education to better the world. That is, after all, the Jesuit mission, and we have to care about our neighbors and how we can better the world and confront injustice. So I think those are 3 points that we should judge all academic programs here at SLU on. Thanks, guys.
All right, that finishes it up for academics. Next, Nathan Klosterman is going to introduce and talk with the VPs for student organizations.
Welcome. First, we have our candidates, Andrew from Together and Mike from Engage. We'll start with an introduction from Andrew from Together.
Hi guys, I'm Andrew. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a junior majoring in theology and business economics. And so kind of what I want to bring, when I tell people I'm majoring in theology and business, they're like, what are you doing? How does that go together? And so kind of what I found at SLU, and kind of like my passion, is how do I get like seemingly impractical and like unrelatable to fit in with what we do in our everyday lives. So this is how I would fit in with CSOs and student organizations, is how do we get them. Because like student organizations are where you go to find people who are passionate about things that you like, and it's a place where you can really flourish as a person. So how do we get the SLU and Jesuit mission into these CSOs to help students learn? How can I take these great ideas I learned and apply them to my daily life? Thanks.
Next we have Mike.
Hey guys, my name is Mike Degnan. I am a sophomore here at SLU studying health management. Some of the things I'm involved in besides of SGA is I'm in the Dance Marathon. I actually started a CSO here. It's called the One Campaign, so that was an experience. So yeah, one of the things that I really want to work on is engaging SGA with CSOs. A lot of the times, people outside of SGA see SGAs up here and CSOs is down here. And in reality, that should be flipped. SGA should really be there supporting all of the CSOs here on campus. We have all of these resources that are available to us to be able to do that. Such as this year we've implemented a lot of CSO check-ins, so I've actually been responsible for that, going to the CSOs and asking, what do you need? What can we do better? How can we serve you? And I think this has really been something that's been successful this year in regards to COMSO and the Committee for Student Organizations, for those who don't know. So that's things that I would like to continue next year, is really engaging with the student body in those regards.
Thank you both. Our first question is going to go to Andrew, and that question is, how do you plan to hold chartered student organizations accountable for submitting important information, updating documents, and attending the required events while maintaining good relationships between SGA and the CSOs?
So I think really big is to see where the different student organizations might need some help. So I'd like to really continue the great work that council has done this year in reaching out to student organizations and visiting them all, being present. And so with that, I could help see what issues are they facing and what can we do about them. When I was going around for nominations, almost everybody's in a CSO somewhere on campus. And I would tell them, hey, I'm running for student organizations. Where's the big need on campus? And so they would tell me some of the problems that they were having within the organization and what I can, and so they were discussing what maybe I can do to help. So I think being really clear about what we are looking for them, and also just, again, being really open, letting them come to us, and seeing where they want. Because student organizations are really all about the students, it's in the name. So seeing exactly what they need, that's it.
Okay. The question is again, how do you plan to hold chartered student organizations accountable for submitting important information, updating documents, and attending the required events while maintaining good relationships between SGA and CSOs?
Yeah, so I think the best way that we can do that is to really get people to want to help us and to want to fill out those forms. If we're really out there developing those relationships and developing those friendships by engaging the CSOs, they're going to want to submit these forms. So I really think that is an important part of what the VP for student organizations should do, is developing these relationships to get people to understand why these forms are important and what they actually do. A lot of people do not understand what these forms are. There are a lot, I understand. So maybe communicating that better and being very transparent with the CSOs and what these actually do. Another thing that we could do is making submitting these forms easier. A lot of the times people don't understand where they're supposed to go, or what they're, like I said earlier, what they're doing. So making sure that's very transparent in that regard. And in terms of holding people accountable, I think it's very important that CSOs are leaders on campus. That being said, we should be able to get the forms in on time, so really holding them accountable to be able to do that. If they don't do that, making sure that it's very clear that there could be repercussions and whatnot, but just making sure that's communicated ahead of time and making sure that people really understand. And like I said earlier, getting them to want to submit these forms and to want to help and develop their relationship. There's a lot that SGA can offer to CSOs, and there's a lot that CSOs can offer to SGA. So really making sure that we can work together to develop that relationships to get people to really get us to engage with the CSOs.
Mike, you'll have the first shot at the second question. Imagine that as VP of Student Organizations, you learn that a CSO's executive board members have resigned and the club is without stable leadership. What would be your plan of action to address the issues that arise? And what can SGA do to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, so this actually happened not too long ago, last week. There was a CSO out there whose executive board really dissolved, and there was nobody that was really motivated to run for those positions and whatnot. Something that I think that the VP for student organizations can really do is to meet with that organization. What is their background? What is their membership like? How is their executive board functioning and formatted? And really making sure that those critical questions are being asked to see if we can improve that within the CSO. A lot of the times, people within CSOs don't realize that there's other ways of doing things. So really bringing in that outside perspective from other CSOs and saying, hey, this is some way that you can maybe improve upon this. And then hopefully they can take that information and apply it to their CSO to make them more successful in that regard. If this doesn't work, we can come up with a strategic plan for them, whether that be continuing on with the CSO over the next couple of years, or maybe leaning towards combining with another CSO, or possibly even chartering, whatever is in the best mindset of that CSO, I guess. So really collaborating with them and making sure that it's the best option for them. I think a lot of the times that CSOs realize that there's a lot of things that SGA can do for them. We're not just here to discipline, we're not just this funding body, we are here as a support system for you guys. So really making sure that's communicated well and that people can come to us with these issues before they turn into big problems. It's a lot easier to fix a lot of the smaller issues before they turn into, like I said, like these big problems. So really addressing those beforehand. So that's kind of how I would do that.
Andrew, that question is again, imagine that as VP of Student Organizations, you learn that a CSO's executive board members have resigned and that the club is without stable leadership. What would be your plan of action to address the issues that arise, and what can SGA do to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, so this kind of happened to me in the CSO I joined. It turned out that the e-board had all graduated. The current e-board didn't really know what their job was and what they did. So I was kind of just a member of it, but we kind of sat down and it's like, what are these core values of the CSO? What do we want out of this club? Why was it made in the first place? And so going through this experience, I think as a VP, I would want to like sit down with the club, get back to what their core values are. How can we find people on campus who just like love and really want to do this? And maybe we can try something out, and maybe it doesn't work. Maybe we can look into combining with another CSO. Maybe there's another one that's struggling just like them. And so working together, we can really like help bring all the CSOs out together, especially the struggling ones. Because again, we just have to be really open with them and make them feel comfortable coming to us, saying, we need some help. What can you do to assist us? And I'll be there for them. That's all.
Thank you guys, that's all. We will have our next VPs, the VPs of Finance, come up, and Bryant will be addressing these questions.
This year we have 3 candidates for the position of Vice President of Finance. We have Mr. Ronald Clark from the Engage ticket. Can we go ahead and give an introduction?
Hello everybody, my name is Ronald Clark. I'm a sophomore civil engineering student here at SLU, and this is actually my 2nd year working with SGA. I have previously sat on the committees for student organizations, Finance Committee, the Wellness Committee, the Committee for Internal Affairs, and I've served as a Parks College Senator and a first-year student senator. I think that one of the big things I'm going to work on, hopefully as VP of Finance, is to hopefully do a better job of communicating to CSOs what we expect out of CSO events. And I think that another big part of that is figuring out exactly how we're looking to spend the student activity fee, talk to students about what they expect their dollars to go towards, and maybe apply that more directly towards the way things are going with CSOs.
Second, we have Ben Behrmann from the Together ticket, who's going to be represented by Cory.
Okay guys, pretend I'm Ben. My name is Ben Behrmann and I am running for Vice President of Finance on the Together ticket. I am a sophomore finance and economics student. During the past 1.5 years in Senate, I have watched both executive boards do great things and would love an opportunity to serve the student body in the ways they have shown possible. One of my goals is to foster cooperation and collaboration between myself and the student body, the executive board, and the administration. By working together, we can achieve more than we imagine, and I hope you let me be a part of the great work SGA will do next school year.
And then finally, we have an independent candidate, Kyle Finnegan, who Nate's going to go ahead and represent.
Kyle's introduction is, hi, I'm Kyle Finnegan. I'm running for Vice President of Finance. Being an accounting major, I am well suited to report on the student activity and wellness fees, as well as the transfer to various chartered student organizations. I know how important these organizations are to the students of SLU, so rest assured that I am anxious to get involved to ensure that there is a detailed account of your money. Please visit my website at kyleforvp.com to find out more about me. Vote for Kyle Finnegan on February 23rd.
Okay, and then our first question is going to be for you, Ronald. It is, given a national trend of declining enrollment, which results in less revenue for SGA from the student activity fee, coupled with a historical trend of increasing funding requests from CSOs, how would you plan to combat the growing gap between revenue and expenses? For example, would you increase the student activity fee? Do we need to cut back on funding to CSOs, or is there an alternate solution entirely?
Yeah, so I very clearly remember as a freshman on the finance committee thinking about the student activity fee. And after going through the funding guidelines and really thinking about it, I always wondered why we didn't just increase it, you know? I mean, to me, $55 at the time didn't seem like a lot per semester, so I was thinking like, you know, maybe 60 or 70 or whatever it would take. But over the course of last year, I kind of realized that this is kind of a lazy solution to the problem. I think that opposed to pumping money into the system that we already have in place, maybe looking for smarter ways to invest student activity fee funds. I think that's a lot of what VP Patel has been working towards this year in terms of the CSO event evaluation form. I think that if a CSO comes forward and says, you know, we have $500 and we had this great event, we had food run out in 30 minutes and people were lined up through the door, that it's very important that they have metrics in place for them to show, you know, next year maybe an increase to $1,000 might be appropriate. But I think that it's also important that they came back the next year and said, we have you $1,000, and, you know, we had all this extra pizza, and, you know, the event wasn't as successful as we expected. We're able to ask those important questions and say, you know, how is the event advertised? Maybe you guys should look into partnering with somebody else in the future and really look for ways to improve how the CSOs are functioning when the events are going forward.
I don't know if you can go ahead and
Increasing the student activity fee is a last resort because the last thing I want to do is take more from the students. I like to think of each dollar we have as an opportunity to better the SLU experience for our students, and so I want to focus on taking each dollar further and providing the students with the best opportunities we can without asking for more money. Jason and Nicole have started a great partnership this year, and I want to continue and take it farther. I hope to use incentive programs to foster sustainable and efficient collaborations between CSOs that will help save the students money. These collaborations, combined with increased accountability of CSOs, can help us take the student activity fee farther and fund more events to create an overall better experience for our students.
now hear Kyle Finnegan's response to the same question.
The simplest way to solve this problem would be to raise the student activity fee, to cut funding to CSOs, or to be much more rigid in accepting new organizations. I believe CSOs are extremely valuable to our campus and to all students. Therefore, any reduction in their funding could seriously jeopardize their effectiveness. CSOs allow creativity at its best, so cutting funding to them, or having them turn away future requests for increased funding, would not be desirable. I also believe that continuing to increase fees puts a bigger burden on students and families who are already struggling with a weakened economy. Raising fees is not always the answer. I truly believe that we can get around doing either of these. One of the first issues I would like to tackle as the new VP of Finance would be to initiate a streamlining of our funding process and begin to look at efficiencies which can be gained across the board. This would entail pooling of resources for redundant activities and funding. There is no doubt that we are funding duplicate efforts when looking at 261 chartered student organizations. CSOs should be categorized and grouped with similar organizations and efficiencies where efficiencies can be gained. After this analysis, we may be able to combat the growing gap between revenues and expenses. My premise and method of operation on a personal level, as well as the Vice President of Finance level, are to always continue to look at efficiencies and basic elimination of redundancies and waste.
And our second question will be to Kyle. SGA Finance has begun to place an important emphasis on developing accountability for CSOs to hold their scheduled events that they are budgeted from the student activity fee each year. How do you plan on continuing this accountability for the funds CSOs are allotted?
CSOs should absolutely be accountable in holding their scheduled events, which are budgeted for the student activity fee. A uniform method of verification of use of funds is a must for each organization. In addition, a solid method of confirming that funds have indeed been used for specified events is of utmost importance. If scheduled events are not taking place by CSOs, these funds should be returned or reduced from future funding. In addition, to consistently follow up with the use of allocated funds, each organization should offer a year-end report which quantifies funds received and specific use of funds. If funds were not utilized as specified, this amount should be reduced from future funding. This question relates closely with the first debate question. This is a very good example of an area which needs to be closely watched for waste or misallocation of funds. If CSOs are not properly utilizing certain funds, it then lends one to look at how critical an event is to that organization. Certainly, each organization should continue to look for methods of streamlining costs and getting the most bang for their buck. Finances should be monitored such that this is determined early on in the school year so that continued abuses are not taking place. Each CSO should fully understand that it is a privilege to have such funds allocated to their organization and that complacency with use of funds will not be tolerated. As a Vice President of Finance, I look forward to continued emphasis on accountability across the board, as well as aiding in ensuring that we maintain an effective and efficient use of funds.
And then next, Ronald. I'll repeat the question for you. SGA Finance has begun to place an important emphasis on developing accountability for CSOs to hold their scheduled events that are budgeted from the student activity fee each year. How do you plan on continuing this accountability for the funds that CSO are allotted?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. At the end of the day, you really think about it and who exactly are CSOs being held accountable to? SGA is a voice for the students, so our CSOs should be accountable to our students. Therefore, in my opinion, I think that we need to have a bigger discussion about how students want to see the student activity fee spent. I honestly think that the student activity fee works best when it works for everybody. And I think that means that we should look at ways where we can get the funds that are allocated out to a larger portion of the student body. So if you were allocated $500 or $1,000 or whatever amount, and it goes to a large amount of students, I think that holds a certain amount of weight, in my opinion. But I mean, that also is just my opinion. So I want to have that conversation with the students. I want to ask, do you think that the questions that we're asking on these forms are too stringent? Do you think we're expecting too much of you currently? How do you think we should best hold you accountable, and what do you think students want?
And finally, Ben sent the same question.
The important thing to remember here is that when money is allocated to the CSO, they do not receive the money until they actually put on the event. So when a CSO is allocated the money for a scheduled event and then fails to hold the event, that money is not used and thrown into a university general account and no longer earmarked for CSOs. That means the money that students paid to fund CSO events are essentially wasted, as it could have been used by another CSO who needed it. Frankly, this is unacceptable, and we should expect more of organizations who are funded solely by students like you and I. I plan on using a combination of event trackers and receipt reviews to hold CSOs more accountable during annual funding. I think it is also crucial to expand the collection of accurate records of all events budgeted that cost a significant amount of money, which last year was $2,400. However, I think it may need to be lowered to increase accountability and improve the number of records to be used during annual funding. Using these records, we can then reduce the CSO's allocation the following year due to their failure to follow the budget. These increases in accountability are crucial to the optimization of the student activity fee and will be a key focus of mine.
Thank you. And next we'll have Liz present the candidates for the presidential spot.
All right, now for the presidential candidates. So we are first going to start with Molly from the Together ticket. And so just a 1-minute introduction on yourself and your platforms.
So hello everyone, my name is Molly Farmer. Is this working? No. Is it working now? No. Okay. It is working? Yes, now it's working. All right everyone. Hello, my name is Molly Farmer and I am a junior here at SLU, majoring in political science, international studies with a Spanish minor. A little bit about what I do on campus. I am a member of the MICA community. I am a brother of the APO organization, and I'm also in Kappa Alpha Theta. Currently, I'm serving on the executive board of Residence Hall Association as the vice president of advocacy, and I'm involved in SGA. So a little bit about what I want to bring to SGA. When I first started thinking about running for president, I really tried to mull over like what can we do to really make an impact or have a difference in the community, not just be another exec board that comes in, but to actually leave this lasting imprint that can go forward for the years to come. And that's where we came up with this idea together, and I look forward to elaborating on that later.
Great, and now an introduction from Jay Bryant, the presidential candidate for the Engage ticket.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jay Bryant. I'm a current junior studying communications and marketing. My involvement with SGA started my freshman year. I was a first-year senator. I served as vice president of internal affairs my sophomore year. And currently, I am not in SGA, but I am the co-president of Relay for Life on campus. And this has introduced an interesting perspective for me. Being an outsider to SGA, I've realized the communication issues and faults. So I guess I had SGA tunnel vision before when I was so involved in SGA. So now I really offer an outsider perspective on like how SGA can better serve CSOs. Quickly, Engage's overarching goals are engaging with SLU, which you've heard a lot from finance and student organizations, and also engaging with the St. Louis community. Whether that's entertainment or service opportunities off campus, we realize that the biggest hindrance and barrier is transportation. So working with administration to provide transportation.
Now the first question, we're going to start with Molly. Okay, first question. What is your 5-year vision for SLU? And what will you do as SGA president to work towards it beyond initiatives already in progress, such as housing, food services, etc.?
Right. Well, as you all know, there's a lot of big plans that are starting to evolve within the student body and within the SLU community as a whole. So you have your strategic plan, you have your master housing plan. Nicole Kim is working very hard currently and with completing a 5-year plan for student organizations. And we need to figure out a way to pull all of these together, really incorporate them. And I think that the best way to do that is taking what all of our community has to offer together, taking it, bringing it into SGA, and kind of flipping that perspective of you come to us and change it to, no, SGA is going to come to you. Student Government Association is going to be the voice because we listen. And the way we're going to do that is taking not just the executive board, not just the senators, and also the committee representatives, and putting them back into the SLU community, making sure that they really are engaging and bringing that perspective together and helping implement that into the plan that we create. So we do want to foster diversity. We want to make a better, more inclusive community, and that's going to come from the ideas of the students. We're going to bring those in, and I think that one thing that we can do is really build upon that ideal of SGA as a community instead of a governing body.
All right, now the question again for you, Jay. What is your 5-year vision for SLU, and what will you do?
Saul in his inaugural address, and one of those things was the strategic plan. I know everyone's wondering, like, well, what is the strategic plan? Why is 2018 so important for St. Louis University? As an outsider, I wondered the same question. I was like, well, how can students help Dr. Costello and administration form the strategic plan? And why do we care about the future? And that just comes down to providing a better future for the future Billikens that will follow in our footsteps. And making sure that SGA is communicating with the student body and these strategic planning processes and committees, and make sure that the student voice is represented with every decision being made going forward. Second, he mentioned affordability, and obviously this is very lofty for students to take on, deciding how much college tuition should be. So working with him and administration on how can students be part of the decision-making process to make sure that this is an affordable experience for everyone, whether that be more scholarships or other resources provided to students. Third, he mentioned engaging with the community, with our neighbors. As I mentioned before, making sure transportation is available for all students, making sure that there's not barriers for students to engage in activities and service opportunities within the community. Again, just making sure that the student voice is heard within all their strategic planning processes, so we can provide a better future for the Billikens that follow our footsteps.
Great. And Jay, you can keep the microphone because this is your question. What are 3 factors that you believe are crucial to student retention here at SLU? What will you do, and what will you and your executive board do to see that these remain a priority for administrators?
Absolutely. Well, I would go ahead and talk about affordability again. Obviously, this is what determines a lot of retention, and that is an issue of retention right now, is affordability, and how do we keep students to stay at SLU. And that comes down to scholarships. As we know, part of the strategic plan is this 2018 fundraising capital campaign, whatever that might look like. But making sure that the students have a voice within this campaign, what this is going to be. So not only like building new residence halls, because that's already in the process, been approved, but saying, you know what, let's create scholarships for students, specifically like student leaders and student leadership honoraria. I sat in a focus group a couple weeks ago about, do we limit the amount of scholarships we hand out to student leaders, or do we accept more student leaders and distribute the money more widely across? And I mentioned, I was like, well, let's put more money in the pot, and I got laughed at. But that's a serious question as we retain students. by making sure that donors and other resources available to SLU are supporting student initiatives, because they were students too, and making sure that, I think that's the biggest issue of retention, and obviously making sure that students have a good time and enjoy their experience. And as HVP mentioned, we're student-oriented, and making sure, like Kevin mentioned with academics, making sure if there's agreements within academics, that gets addressed with the deans, and making sure that all students have a say in their college experience.
All right, Molly, the question again. What are 3 factors that you believe are crucial to student retention at SLU? What will you and your executive board do to see that these remain a priority for administrators?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important that we make SLU a very personal experience for every student that's here. I think that we are really good at the first year experience. We have lots of learning communities. We have lots of first year interest groups. We really promote our CSOs to our freshmen, but that falls off a little bit when you enter your sophomore year, your junior year, maybe even your senior year. And I think sometimes if people don't find that niche their freshman year, they're more inclined to leave. So making that personal is really important. I think secondly, we need to make our students a priority. Our focus should not be the endowment. Our focus should not be what we look like as a university per se, but that our students come first. That we still make our student body a priority to the individual, and make sure that we cater to their needs and their desires before we focus on like the university as a whole. Because the student body really does fill that really important aspect. And I think my executive board, we really focused on this idea of together, so making sure we can compile both that personality and the priority of the students, making them feel like they should be here. We should retain a lot of our students a lot better. And I think we can do a great job by just outreaching.
Okay, then we keep the microphone for the last question. What will you do to establish a relationship between students and administrators to ensure that the student voice remains heard in university decisions, especially in light of everything that's happened in the past year?
Well, I think the strategic plan right now is going to be a great opportunity for us to really shape the way we see the student body and that relationship between the administration and the students. Before, I don't really know if we've had the relationship there that we would really desire, but now with the new turnover of new administrators coming in, they're really going to want to be engaged with the student body, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for not just myself, but for my executive board and Senate, and even branching out into the student body to be able to foster those communications and those relationships. I think that within these relationships, we really need to make sure that the student's voice is being heard, and that we're not just promoting what SGA wants, but we're promoting what we know that the students want. And that's only going to come by outreach. So making sure that my executive board and that my senators all go out into their community, make sure they're hearing their constituents, make sure they're understanding that their committees are focused on actually fulfilling and carrying out what our student body desires. And as my job, or my role as president, it's going to be very important that I take all of those things that my senators, my committee representatives, and my executive board are telling me, and really advocating for the student body, and with the administration, making sure that that voice and that connection is heard both ways.
And the question again for Jay. What will you do to establish a relationship between students and administrators to ensure the student voice remains heard in university decisions, especially in light of everything that's happened in the past year?
So like my team highlighted in their presentations, it's, like I mentioned, sitting down with students and collaborating with the student body. I think something that's really neat is obviously the strategic plan and how these work groups and committees have involved students even outside of SGA to sit on and really hear the concerns. As Kevin mentioned, having a student advisory board for each dean of each college, so students can provide updates on their experience and maybe classes that can be formatted better to make sure that their college degree is very practical in the sense of what they're going to major in and go into in the field. Another way for students to engage with administration is our team holding administration accountable to meet with other students and to sit down. Something that I think is an honor is sitting down with administrators and saying, how can you engage with students this month? How do you hear different constituents and different students' concerns, ideas, or whatnot? I think we have an open door, as Molly mentioned, with new administration and the new president. That's opened the door to a lot of new opportunities and new ideas and formats, because he wants to listen. And I think that's our job, to make sure that he's listening to students and that we gather as much as we can so we can go to administration and address the issues that are before us. In light of this year, with the clock tower reports, as Emily mentioned, making sure that students are involved in every process and decision that's made of those 13 points. And as Emily mentioned, working with a special assistant of diversity and social justice with assistant to the president, making sure that all the emotions and feelings and ideas and also concerns are heard and gets to administration to make the appropriate decisions.
Let's give both tickets a round of applause. Now we are going to have some time for open forum questions. So these open forum questions can only be asked to the presidents, VP of Internal, VP for Student Organizations, and VP of Academic Affairs, since they are the only positions with both candidates present to answer the questions. So just sort of having a fair playing field. So if anybody has any questions, you can just step right up here and we can bring up the position that you have a question for and get those questions answered. And yes, the candidates have 1 minute to answer the open forum questions, so a little bit of a shorter time period. So, okay, yeah, go ahead, come on. What position do you want to ask questions? Okay.
So, VP Nicole Kim has been working a lot recently with the definition of what a CSO, wait, you guys over here. What do you guys see for the future in terms of the definition of a CSO? Can you talk about your plan and how you're going to work with that in the next year?
So kind of what I see might be crucial is sort of like CSO tags. So this won't be umbrella-ing a CSO, and I just made up for it. So this could be like athletic, diversity, international, because the problem with umbrella is you kind of just like generalize a student organization, take away the personality. By putting on tags, kind of, a CSO could have like more than one thing. That's kind of the point of this. And so this will help different CSOs work together. And if you were making a new CSO, it gives you instantly a whole bunch of different CSOs that might have experiences that relate to what you want to do. Not that you're technically or exactly going to merge with them, but then they might help you with like guidance tips, help mentor you through the process of getting what you want, getting members, organizing events, etc. So that's kind of an important thing that I see for the future.
Yeah, that's a tricky question because to every one of us, a CSO is a different thing. Each organization that we're in brings something different and unique to that CSO experience. So something that I would really want to do is sit down and have that conversation with everybody and make sure that the university and the student body as a whole kind of make that decision what a CSO means to them and what we want the CSO to mean for the future moving forward. It's not so much what I think, but it's really what the student body thinks and what their CSO brings to the university. That being said, I think it's very important that we do have that conversation, making sure that everyone is heard in that because each CSO is different and brings something different to the table. One definition might not fit with a different organization. Because the definitions we have now are really binding and they're really constricting, and it's hard because there are so many great organizations that come through that have these amazing causes and these amazing focuses, and they don't really just cater to what our definition is, so making sure that that definition is brought upon the student body.
Ellyn
mentioned earlier something about a core curriculum and how it's important for holistic education. And so I'm asking you both to just elaborate on that, your opinions on the core curriculum, considering that we are going to have a new provost coming in. I'm just asking because we don't really have that, and most students like that we don't have that, such as myself. That's one of the reasons I chose to come here, was because we don't have everybody taking the same first 2 year of classes. So you can just elaborate on that, please.
So it sounds like Ellie's getting at the idea of a general core curriculum across all colleges, and that's a really tricky issue, I feel like, because every single college is unique, and I feel like the core curriculum should definitely reflect that. What College of Arts and Science students are taking should not be necessarily what students in the College of Nursing are taking. So I think that we really need to sit down and consider what students in each college need to have. As far as the whole person goes, I think that we need to evaluate the core curriculums of each college based on how they satisfy or strengthen one's mind, body, and spirit. And those are the three prongs upon which I would base judgment on core curriculum. And we can get into definitions about what those three are, but basically making sure that we are teaching people in the Jesuit tradition to serve others and the greater society.
I actually don't agree with having a general core across all colleges, because especially on a personal level, I'm in nutrition and dietetics. It's super specific. We have a lot of very specific training that goes into our internship and getting jobs. And I totally understand that there are a lot of majors at SLU like that, because we have so many majors, and it would be almost impossible to have a core curriculum that encompasses all of those and still allows students to go forward and get jobs and get the right type of training that they need to go out into the world. So with that, I was thinking more of having types of classes, so that we have a class that fits diversity. And so, for example, in nutrition and dietetics, we have an ethnic meal management class that kind of would fit that type of idea. And in another major, there might be a similar type of class. So it's still specific to the major, but it encompasses the core values of our university.
I'm on the Internal Affairs Task Force for Committee Reform, and one of the things we're working with right now is trying to reform the committee process to make it work better and to make sure that everything is taken care of. So if each of you could elaborate kind of on your vision for the committee process and how that's going to go forward next year to make sure it's most effective.
So coming into this kind of with a fresher perspective, I'd say that I don't know exactly every nitty-gritty process of that, but I'm totally open to learning what you guys have been working on in the next few months if being elected. That's really something that I'm open to understanding and learning, but moving into next year, integrating a lot of my opinions into that. Like a personal example is that we've been going out to a lot of student organizations and really hearing that they have so many ideas that they want heard, and so many super specific things that as we create committees, as we get opinions from senators that go out to their constituents, can understand those opinions, and when we form the committees, say what can be our objectives, who would be best to incorporate their ideas in this committee, and how we can move forward to help them achieve that goal. And a lot of what Andrew was talking about, creating those umbrellas, having great tasks for them as a larger organization that we can help achieve through the smaller CSOs. So a lot of dialogue between our executive board, a lot of our dialogue between senators or specific areas, and then helping to achieve those objectives as we determine the committees.
So, as I mentioned before, the real purpose of committees within SGA is to really focus on how addressing the issues that our students have in regards to, like, whether it be food, dining, whatever. In terms of proposed reform, as it is now, we have lots of committees within SGA that kind of do the same thing. So in order to be more efficient in what we do in addressing our student concerns, I think it'd be best if we were to merge some of those committees together, so that way we wouldn't have like such an upset, like, oh no, we have all these committees and all these issues. one thing I'm really pushing for is more collaborations between committees, because we're all in this together, so why aren't we being aware of each other's plans and whatnot? So really engaging committees to work along with each other, so rather than having more committees for all these issues, I would suggest merging some of them that have the same goals in line, so that way they're more efficient in addressing these issues and concerns that our students have.
First off, I just wanted to say that as an alum coming back, it's really exciting to see two excellently put together tickets. I'm very, very impressed by the turnout and the answers to the questions so far. My question had to deal with accountability, specifically for internal. So I know that we were talking briefly earlier that one of the answers had to do with having accountability in regards to attendance. So attending Senate meetings, attending committee meetings, which I understand is all doing good, but as we all know, just being present in a room doesn't mean that you're present with the student body. So I was wondering, do you personally, either of the candidates, have an accountability plan, meaning a way to make sure that senators or committee representatives are held accountable for actual outputs? So that can be anything as far as like checking in on a timeline or even things that are punitive. So you don't have a certain number of outputs, what is the progression will happen to those people? Because if they're just filling a space in a room, then they shouldn't be there.
I think that is an excellent question. I think one way we can capitalize upon that is really checking upon Senate office hours. The purpose of office hours is for students to really interact with their senators. So if at the moment each senator is supposed to sign up for office hours and show up at their place. So if I happen to walk by to where a senator said they were going to be, and yet they're not there in the first place, I know that they're not really doing the responsibility as being an open student leader that students can actually talk to in regards to their problems. So in terms of accountability, if we see that this interaction between senators or committee reps and their constituencies are happening, maybe we should find somebody else to fill that role, because if you're not going to be the active leader that the students want you to be, there's somebody out there who would love to join it in the first place, and maybe allowing them to have that experience and really getting the student voice out there. So I would really capitalize upon Senate office hours and making sure that it's utilized to its best capabilities.
So just jumping the gun really quick, because they're a senator, they already want to be there. They know that they're a voice for the students, and they really want to be a source of that, going out and doing outreach. And so kind of what I mentioned before, and really being under Molly's control of this one, is definitely opening up those office hours to outsourcing us to those different communities, different organizations, and being present with them. They have the one, they have that representative, they have the constituency, they're already there. All that's already checked off on the list. The one thing that's missing is the desire. So if you show them that they have the ability to go out there and say, hey, we went to karate club and they really want that punching bag, how can we make that happen? How can we really help those organizations sustain themselves to help move forward? It's us being there. I mean, you can sit in your office hours all you want and you can have people come to you, but if you have to change that system to say, hey, I'm here, I want to see you and I want to talk to you, then that's where the change really is going to come in for.
Currently I am teaching in the projects in North St. Louis, and earlier this semester, and I know that Colin spoke about to this, both candidates probably, both tickets have probably spoken to this or had this on their mind at some point, but SLU is actually in a very tumultuous time. We're in a very difficult time in our city, and SLU is actually in a huge place to impact change, to have dialogue, to grow from the experiences and the history that St. Louis has gone through for tons of times, especially dealing with race relations. So I was wondering, have any of your tickets gone to visit with minority groups on campus and talked to them and kind of heard about what their ideas are about how to deal with the problems that our campus is facing? Or if not, how is the problems that we face for a semester impacting what you want your leadership to look like in the upcoming year? And I know that that's kind of a loaded question. So the biggest thing that I'm wondering, have you met with minority groups on campus, and this could be Rainbow Black Student Alliance? If not, how are you as the president or future president of SLU going to take those ideas and grow from those perspectives?
I really appreciate that question because this is what my ticket wants to do. This is the focus of going out. Currently, in the past week, my ticket has visited 11 student organizations, including Black Student Alliance. We went to their soul food and jazz last night and hung out with them. We're going to Rainbow Alliance tonight. We've met with the International Student Federation along with a plethora of other organizations on campus. And that's really where you're going to collect that information. You're right that there is the need in the SLU community, but even extended into the St. Louis community, and we can be there to help meet those needs for one another. Really engaging in the student body and empowering them, both minority groups and groups that are huge on campus, like APO, who already do service, and giving them that extra boost to go out into the community by doing it with them is going to be a huge key point that my ticket, if elected to executive board, really hones in on.
All right, again, thank you for that question. Unfortunately, since we only have 2 weeks to really campaign, we haven't met with so many CSOs. But if we are elected, we do want to sit down and have those conversations. Attending a Jesuit university, we are called to be moral leaders, and that starts with the conversation, that starts with dialogue. So really engaging with the minority groups on campus, and Emily Bley mentioned a lot of this, is sitting down and having the conversation first, and then how do we decide how we're going to advocate, educate, and then engage the community in that sense. Again, going back to transportation, having to provide students the opportunity to go north and south is working with the Center for Service and Community Engagement and providing transportation and service opportunities for students, the service-oriented groups, the minority groups, whatever it is, to really engage with the nonprofits that are out there. Right now we have an awesome partnership with Big Sisters, Big Brothers, just 2 blocks away. And so it's like, how do we notify students that want to engage with?
Any questions for the presidential candidates?
Hello, friends. My question is related to the Jesuit mission. I have to ask it, token Jesuit question. What do you hope to do in terms of advancing the Jesuit mission and deepening it if you were to be elected?
All right, so my team has discussed this a lot, obviously with the nature of campus this year, and Emily obviously has a lot of ideas and goals in mind. Again, it starts with conversation, but like Emily mentioned, it's first-year experience. And how our students cultivated to have those discussions coming from high school to college with more students, more diversity, and students who they aren't used to. It could be a culture shock for some. Again, like I mentioned, we're called to be moral leaders, and what does that mean as a Jesuit university? It means listening to both sides, that is the pursuit of truth, but then in the end, it's making that moral decision on what is best for the greater good. Obviously, we serve a higher purpose for the greater good at SLU, and making sure that our team engages with students in those conversations and opening up to reviving the oath. And what does that mean? And what does that mean to each SLU student? Because we're all different.
So I think that the Jesuit mission is, we always say an integral part of the SLU experience, except for sometimes we have a hard time making that tangible. So I think something that is very important with the Jesuit mission is bringing that from this concept up here that we all kind of live underneath and integrating it into every aspect of the student in the student body. So whether that is academics and making those classes not just for the first year experience, but also reaching into your sophomore, junior, senior year, making CSOs more empowered to go out into the community and be men and women for others, or even as SGA in internal and diversity, really embracing that idea of together and of being out there in the community is some way that we're all going to embrace men and women for others in a personal level, which is really how we're going to take it further than SLU once we graduate.
Any other question for the presidential candidates? Okay.
Okay, so it's great that you guys have like full tickets and you all have like your own plans and for the next year. But I would like to know, what if you are in the event that not all members from your ticket are elected? Because although you guys do have established tickets, we do vote individually. So you're talking about incorporating the Jesuit mission, incorporating diversity and unity, but how do you plan to do that in the event that not everyone on your ticket is elected?
Yeah, this is a great question because this is very possible for our scenario. However, I think that something that Victor Hong said earlier that I really want to hone in on is that we are a group of people who want to engage the student body together. We both have great aspects, we both have great key points, and I think that each and every one of us as exec board potential members have some unique quality that we can bring to the student body into SGA. So even though one whole ticket may not make it through, we can all work with each other. And I know that because I know all of you, and I know that we can make that work. So regardless of whether one whole ticket makes it through or whether we're mixed and integrated, we can achieve the goals that we have because we all have that same ideal of bettering the student body.
All right, thank you for that question. Obviously, we form teams because we have the ideas and the goals together. And we form this team because we're passionate individuals that think that we can serve the student body the best because of our experiences, but not only that is our outside experiences as outside of SGA and what we can provide as the student body in that way. In the unfortunate event, if the whole team isn't voted and elected together, it would be a transition process, obviously, and just sitting down, like Molly said, we all know each other and can all work with each other, but definitely transitioning our goals and mindsets and long-term ideas as a team, full team. Obviously, teamwork makes the dream work, and that's something that we hold ourselves accountable to, and there's going to be conflict within us, and how do we work through conflict and making sure that in the end we're moral leaders serving students.
Any other presidential questions? And it's time for vote.
So I guess I'm kind of asking this on behalf of the Visions for your whole ticket, but how will you as an entire e-board work to be a voice for marginalized students on campus? So specifically, instead of just going to talk to them or whatever, obviously those are all great to hear the concerns, but how will you be that voice for marginalized students on this campus?
All right, yes, like she mentioned, we talked about sitting down and having those conversations. As president, I work closely with the Vice President of Diversity and Social Justice, hopefully Emily Bley, and see what are the student needs and concerns, and really it starts with having a one-on-one conversation, like SGA is doing this week, is they're having the open forum about the clock tower reports. In the pursuit of truth, we want to hear both sides, and I think that's where it begins. Sitting down with the new special assistant to the president, whatever that job entails and looks like, it's important that that job is based around students. And so I think it's a unique opportunity for Emily and myself to be able to work and develop what this position looks like, and making sure that they're engaged with the students just as much as SGA would be with students, really doing the field work and the groundwork, and us just developing that relationship and making sure that all students feel comfortable on this campus, and make sure that their voice is being heard, whatever their needs, concerns, issues are.
Yeah, I think that I'm really embracing that idea of the individual and personal relationships with the student body is the way that we're going to advocate for everybody, especially minority interests. Making sure that SGA is approachable, but also that we are making an active effort to go out and engage with the student body and really embrace what every individual, minority, culture group, anything can bring to campus, and making them feel like they're a priority and they actually make a difference here is going to be how we represent them well. Everybody has something to offer, and by really making those relationships personal and not just keeping it within SGA or within the student body even, but advocating for those to the administration and Dr. Costello as he forms this idea of what SLU really is. Making those conversations one-on-one, organization to organization, is how we're really going to foster that inclusion.
You guys are going, oh God, I'm running now. Okay, so a question I have for you two, it's kind of concerning to me because you guys keep talking about all the people on your team about the Jesuit mission and how we have to have good academics and stuff, but I feel like talking about how some majors get treated way better than other majors do, because the academics at this school are very divided. Someone who is getting a business degree or engineering degree gets way more opportunities than someone who is getting a communication degree like me. And I think it starts off with the facilities. If you look at where the theater and communication departments are held in Xavier Hall, quite frankly, it's embarrassing. And if you go into the Xavier Annex, it's basically falling apart. So I kind of want to hear your guys' opinions about how do you plan on improving the facilities where the academic programs are held.
That's a really good point, and it is really poor, some of the buildings and facilities that we have to offer to our students, especially in comparison to some of the more proficient or more, I guess, popular majors. And I think this is where the strategic plan is going to come into play. I cannot promise that in 1 year we're going to fix everything like that, because that would be a lie. But putting in place a plan where we sit down with the administration and go, this major has had a lot of money and has been built up. That's awesome. But let's focus in on these majors, because every single student is important and we want to advocate for them just as much as these majors over here. And making sure that the plan that is put into place and developed really does advocate for every single major that we have across the board, incorporating that development of these buildings that are really in a poor and sorry state currently.
Yes, as Molly mentioned, we can't promise you a new building, but as we have a dean search going on and a couple of new deans entering the university, it's important, and especially new provosts. That's really important that Kevin, Vice President of Academic Affairs, takes them on a walking tour and says, here's the learning environment, and this one's not productive, or this one is productive, and how do we fix that? Obviously, every student who basically goes to school here deserves a productive learning environment, whatever that may be. Me being in Xavier every day, I do realize the struggle we have with just different facility issues, even technology, making sure that technology is used in the classroom. So I think it is really an opportunity for us to really sit down with the new provost and the new deans of the different schools and colleges. And I think this is a great opportunity for Kevin to sit down and say, here, let's make sure every student has a productive learning environment, and as the strategic plan comes into play, making sure that those facilities are brought up as concerns within those working groups.
Well, that is going to conclude the 2015 Vote SLU Executive Board debates. So I sincerely thank you all for coming tonight. Please relay the information that you heard from the candidates and the tickets to your friends to help make everybody informed voters in this election. And also, please encourage everybody to vote on this upcoming Monday, February 23rd. So if we could give both tickets another round of applause for